As you can imagine, the Springboks know they must pitch up both mentally and physically for today's Rugby World Cup semi-final against England at the Stade de France in Paris to avoid the pitfall of losing to a team that everyone but them is making them the underdog.
Indeed. And for more on this, we now cross back to Leanne Manas in Paris. A very good morning to you again, Leanne. You said earlier on that the South African fans there were a bit subdued when they were at the stands watching the New Zealand against Argentina. Well, I got to tell you this. I was at some establishment last night watching the very same match. And instead of people talking about that particular game, they were talking about today's game, and the excitement is so palpable everywhere. And I see that you are chilling with the minister and you're indulging some croissants there. What's happening?
Good morning once again. Listen, when in France, you've got to do these things. Croissants, coffee, flags, we've got rugby balls, we're good. But listen, I just want to add on to what you were saying. In fact, Simpiwe, it was. I mean, we were sitting in the stands last night and we had rows of New Zealand supporters right behind us and then another row behind us. At one point, they even lost interest in the match and they were talking to one another and they were sort of, almost preparing for what's lying ahead. They weren't interested in the match that was actually on the field. It was almost like a shoe-in for them. But tonight is going to be a different story. And I don't want to waste too much time talking about the match because I have got the minister. It's a breakfast date. I'm having a breakfast date with our minister here in Paris. Minister, never in my wildest dreams that I think that you and I would be on a date on live television in the streets of Paris. But that's not bad, hey, what we've set up here.
I've never in my latest dream thought that I will meet Leanne in the cold morning in Paris, yes, celebrating what is significant and special moment for South Africa.
Exactly. But something's missing, your cup of coffee. So I'm going to ask the team if they can bring the coffee in, because you can't not have a coffee. We've been waiting for this coffee to come on, so that someone will bring it in for us. Minister, how does it feel? I mean, I know you arrived yesterday and you came into the atmosphere, and a rousing welcome from our super fans that were there and many others to help you. But talk to us about the feeling coming in as we head into the semi-finals.
This is a special moment for us as a country. We are on the cusp again of making history as South Africa. And as you know, sport, rugby in particular, has got a particular significance in nation building and social cohesion in the country, precisely because of its history. And I think it's one sport that has come out over a period of time since 1995, when our former president walked at Ellis Park wearing that number 6 jersey. And almost fought against his own colleagues that we must keep the Springboks. Little did we know that wisdom in 2023, we now see why President Mandela fought even against his own comrades, that we must keep the Springboks, we must support the Springboks. And I think because of that history, and that's what we're celebrating today, and its ability to unite all of us. I mean, if you look at the enthusiasm back home, Leanne, I'm sure you left home before me. Yeah. But something very interesting, Springbok as a national symbol of South Africa is no longer celebrated by 62 million South Africans. Yeah. All over the world. Yesterday, I spoke to a number of people from different countries. They asked me, what is it with you and South Africa and the rugby? That is sport tourism. What it means is that the power of sport will bring economy, investment to the country, because suddenly most powerful and successful sporting nations, they've used sport tourism, cultural tourism as a contributor to their GDP. And I think we're beginning to see that in South Africa. With the performance of a Springbok, we're likely to see a lot of people coming to South Africa because of sport tourism and cultural tourism. If you look at this country, for example, this country is hosting a lot of mega events using sport and culture, arts and culture, big fashion shows, big films, big sporting events, and we miss that. Bonjour.
Bonjour. Your coffee has arrived.
Merci beaucoup, madame.
Minister, it is a phenomenal thing to see how South Africans, how it bonds and unites South Africans, because there are a lot of times that the country isn't. But my question to you was off camera, just saying to you, why this particular sport? We play so many sports and excel at a lot of sports, but there's just something about rugby that brings us together as a nation. And I mean, that's something obviously we need to tap into, and we do tap into. But why this sport in particular?
Well, if you read a book by Thando Manana about the history of rugby, you realize that actually rugby has always enjoyed popular support among the black communities. We're talking about the 70s and so on, particularly in the areas of Eastern Cape. Now, because we look at rugby with recency, with the eyes of recency, because of what apartheid has done. And that is why it's one particular sport that suddenly, because of a reconciliation approach by our former president, has almost taken a pitch of uniting all South Africans. And it's very rare across all sporting codes. It is that history that is coming back, not because we're in a new democracy, but it has always enjoyed support across color lines. I mean, if you look at what happens, one of the big fan parks in Centurion, and I went to Monte Cassino, and I went to Cape Town. It's amazing what you see.
Yeah.
And this is one sport which I think President Mandela foresaw, that this is one sport that we must use to build a country that was divided on the basis of race and religion.
Yeah, and it's so true, because that's, I mean, you see it in action when you're here, but it's to build on that. And somebody had said to me once, if we could bottle that feeling and sell it to South Africans, we're the most perfect nation in the world, because that is the one thing, and literally that thing is the one that unites us. I want to talk a little bit about some of the issues, however, in the lead up to this, and of course there's that wider investigation. I know that it's all, you know, happening and being appealing, but how did we get there in the first place? What went wrong?
Well, like many South Africans, I do ask the question, how did you get to such a precipitous point that could have been very catastrophic to a sporting nation, big sporting nation like ourselves, that participate internationally? Because the consequences of being banned by WADA will not have had, firstly, will not have an opportunity to organize and participate in continental regional games. We will not have been able to fly our flag as we do now enjoy. And I asked the question, how did you get here? But I thought it would be premature of me to make speculations. I've already asked that let's find a way to develop terms of reference for a proper investigation. Because this matter is not a yesterday matter. There's a certain history to it. Someone says, somebody dropped the ball. I said, probably yes, but I want to find out. The reason for investigation is to make sure that it never happens again. Yeah. Because WADA is an important, South Africa's participation in WADA were one of the important stakeholders in countries in relation to anti-doping. And our participation and commitment to anti-doping is unquestionable. We should have anticipated, we should have known the consequences, but look, we were able in the shortest period of time to make sure that we met certain reinforcement conditions. For example, the draft bill was immediately developed. That draft bill was adopted and approved by Parliament. That draft bill is now before the Office of the State Law Advisor. That draft bill will soon go to Parliament in a matter of days. Parliament will then fast-track that draft bill, because we know the consequences of a sporting nation such as ourselves if we are to be banned by WADA.
So it's under investigation. We don't want to talk too much about it, but as you say, we cannot afford to be in a situation like that. I can't imagine not being able to wave. I mean, your team just gave me a big, massive flag that I'm going to be waving in the stadium tonight. I'd hate to not be able to do that, and that's the reality of something like that. So, Minister, before we wrap up, there's just two more sort of issues I want to touch with you, is professional leagues. I mean, obviously we see, it's one thing sitting and watching rugby and following rugby and seeing the investments, the corporates, the people getting behind this and everything about it. But then we look at women's sporting codes. We talk about football. We talk about netball. You've spoken and made pledges that we're going to make these into professional leagues. Where are we? Is this going to happen certainly in my lifetime or your lifetime? Soon? How soon are we talking? We want these professional leagues so that women's sports can enjoy what we're doing right now for the men's sports.
I'm very pleased that Cricket South Africa, what has done in a very shortest period of time. When a T20 women cricket won, they played at the finals. Immediately, we made a commitment that will contribute 5 million towards the development of professional women's league in cricket. In 6 months, that was early when we took office. In 6 months, they'd done so. And we don't understand why other sporting codes are not able to do so over a period of time. Yeah. We've done so since 2018 with SAFA. That will contribute in 5 million, and in outer years to make sure that we establish professional women's league. But I think we must be patient, because I'm beginning to appreciate the role of commercial partners, sponsors. And I think sponsors sometimes, because they've got their own mindset, and I'm engaging corporate sector to see how best they can invest in women's sport. Because you must understand the history. It's always been that it's only men's sport that will thrive. And we're beginning to see that actually Banyana plays better than Bafana. When they played, we were in New Zealand, there was a lot of suggestions that why don't we make Desiree the coach of Bafana Bafana? And it was not just a joke, but it was how best they can sacrifice. When they lost their first game to Sweden in New Zealand, Banyana, they cried the whole night. And I wanted to find out the following day, why did you cry? From Desiree to the last person. They say because of the country, because you are here, because of the flag. And sometimes at Bafana, I miss that spirit. Amazing. Where people just throw themselves out because when you watch Springboks, they bleed and yet they play and they say, it's not for us, it's about the country. I miss that sometimes in football.
Yeah, and we need that more. Minister, I've got to wrap, but here it is. We're here, semi-finals. 10-second message to the team ahead of the match tonight.
The entire world, the entire French people are behind you. I made a call to them that let's strengthen our relations using sport. 62 million South Africans are behind you. You have done us proud. We have no doubt that we're going to the finals. We are at the cusp of making history as a club representing 62 million South Africans, defending and winning this Web Wellies for the fourth time, but also defending your title as a world champs in the outside territory. Well done. Yeah. Bring it back.
Bring it home. Bring it home. 2 more matches. And that Webb Ellis Trophy is ours once again. Minister, thank you. It's so lovely to be with you. I'm going to enjoy my croissant and coffee. I'm going to throw it back to the Johannesburg studio. Oh, guys, it's so exciting. It really is. So we'll see you again in the next hour. We've got something exciting planned for you then as well.